for quite some time. Congrats on your first professional match, guys, but you're back on the bench. And we are back into the pick and ban here for the first game. Samsung out the gate, going to be banning away LeBlanc, taking that one off the board for Mickey.
Interesting that they would see that as a priority in game number 2 when it wasn't in the first game of the series. Nidalee will be banned against Ambition. He did have a monster game on that. And Samsung does not want Songyun to have the Caitlyn that he performed so very well on in their first series against Longzhu.
It's his MVP champion, man. You got to get rid of that.
I think Songyun can still play a fine Sivir here. Rise will be the next ban. How much of a pinch on the champion pool of the junglers are we going to see in this game? Victor and Azir both still up, and there's an Echo, so we know that Samsung is not trying to first pick that. Is Kindred going to be left up is the major question.
That's a good one to ask. We've seen her banned a plethora of times. She is tied for second, the most banned champion in the game, next to Nidalee, and of course Rise being at that #1 spot. If she makes it through, would not be shocked to see if Ambition just snatches this one up. It's going to be the Azir taken off the board away from Crown.
The question is for Samsung, do you first pick Victor here? Because Mickey is a better Victor player than he is an Azir player, and that means Samsung's going to take it right away. So they knew that Mickey was going to try and take Victor in the first round of their draft on red side. And Victor is very strong, especially for Crown, who has been an extremely good Victor player throughout his entire career. And it's currently his most played champion at the professional level with 25 games. So I think you just go ahead, put Crown on a comfort pick. That way Mickey can take whatever he wants. You've got the good wave clear there in case he does pick the Twisted Fate again. You can at least have some level of control over the minion wave and how far it can go down the lane, so you can at least make sure Mickey is standing next to his turret and not easily able to teleport away.
Well, now Freecs taking their time with this first round. We can see that they want the Kindred. They will lock it in for Lyra, so getting him that carry jungler potential.
Should be Kindred Maokai here, one would assume, unless Ixu wants to do something a little bit different.
Gonna take the Lucian off the board, so that Ruler can't get that one for himself. So Songyun not gonna be going for the Sivir like you mentioned we could see, but just gonna go for arguably the most busted AD carry in the game right now.
Well, what's interesting about this Lucian though is that he did fall all the way through the pick and ban in our first game of the night. And he's been banned 4 times, but he's only 2 and 4 in actual games. So perhaps Samsung not too worried about that. They did beat the Rocks Tigers when they were using Lucian, and Samsung did win a game using Lucian. So they seem to be both comfortable playing with and against it. Ambition will be taking the Elise, and they'll grab that Nami one more time. Wraith has looked excellent on that pick.
Yeah, it's last game, just chaining those CCs together, tidal wave straight into the bubble with everything else on top. It was pretty gorgeous there from Wraith. So unsurprising that he wants to go for that. Also just offers sustain in the lane. But we have actually seen a Lucian mid. So there is potential that this is a flex pick.
Fair enough. We've also seen Lucian top, and we're to believe Immortals that that's a real pick. So Mickey thinking about the Lulu, and that is what he's going to lock in.
Okay.
He was a shaky Lulu in the last season. Sometimes he would over-prioritize using his abilities on himself as opposed to protecting his AD carry. And his TPs were not always the best on TP mid laners, but they are going to return to that pick. And they did see a lot of wins with it, even if he wasn't individually the best mid Lulu that we've seen late in the season. He said we are going to save a counter pick here for Ixu in that top lane.
Well, Echo not available. We can see Samsung, of course, just going to go for the Maokai, it seems. Seems like the most likely pick, but will Ixu play the Fiora?
I don't think he will. I'm not convinced that Fiora is exactly great right now with how strong many of these other tank top laners are. Will be the Ezreal for Ruler, and Maokai selected as a more standard pick for Cuvée. However, the Swain is a very real option at this point in time. You already have 2 AD champions in the Kindred and the Lucian, and he will provide some pretty heavy front line.
Yeah, Wild
mid
Growth
and late game.
Wild Growth on top of him while he's just sitting in ultimate in the middle of your
bad times.
Middle of your team. That's that seems pretty rough if you're Samsung. So actually wouldn't be too bad of a pickup here for Afreeca Freecs if they do lock this one in.
The problem with picking Swain right there is that you leave yourself with effectively no engage. You would have to flash ult as a Braum, maybe speed somebody up to try and get in there. If you have a Poppy, your flanks and your engage is going to be a lot stronger, and your turret dive in the early game is going to be a lot better. And I think Afreeca has the right idea with the Poppy here instead. They are focusing on the early game, the early and mid game yet again, because what they've built is a very strong composition when it comes to diving and wave control. But they're not really going to be able to compete at all with the damage output of a Victor and an Ezreal come the late game. That is just factual. Those champions scale extremely well, and their tank is going to be straight up tankier in the Maokai. So I really like Samsung again. If they play a conservative style like we saw them in the early game last time, taking the mistakes that Afreeca gave them and turning them into an early gold lead and just waiting. Just wait until you can win these team fights. They're in a good position. Afreeca, though, they've got some decent damage for these early skirmishes, but it's about the dive. It's about sending the Poppy in, sending the Lucian and the Kindred in to really just make sure that no one is safe under these turrets and that you can take out a couple kills, take the objective, and acquire a big gold lead from that point forward.
Yeah, we'll have to see, though, how the bot lane of the Freaks can do this time around. Songy and Snowflower, obviously, it's kind of getting pretty messed up in that last game. Now
it was ugly.
They do have that Lucian. If you can get ahead, get that Youmuu's Ghostblade and Black Cleaver pretty early, the tankiness of that Maokai for Kuve is not really going to matter a whole lot.
Not early, and not with a lot of items. Yeah, absolutely.
So that could help them run away with it. And I mean, especially now with Mickey with the Wild Growth on the Lucian, he can just keep shredding through that front line of your team. So this could work out for the side of Freaks. Don't want to count them out, but draft for Samsung certainly looking pretty good, especially with Crown on his most desired champion in that Victor.
Yeah, I'm curious. Crown has consistently delivered on Victor. He is only 9-16 in terms of win rate, which sounds pretty bad, but his individual performances haven't been a lot of the reason why Afreeca was losing many of those games. So I really like him as a Victor player. He was part of his week 1 combined average 1,195 damage per minute, which was absolutely extraordinary coming from a mid laner. There is a Victor, champions that do that for you, but still actually getting those numbers on paper over 2 games is unusual.
Yeah, I want to know, I kind of wonder how much that's dropped since he played the Echo in that last game, because he definitely wasn't doing nearly as much DPM, but still...
He did do about 500 damage per minute, though, because it was about a 35-minute game, and he had about 17,000 DPM, or 17,000 total damage, so about 500 damage per minute, so it is going to pull that pretty far down. Of course, we're still assembling a larger statistical pool, especially with all the patch changes on 6.9 and 6.10. It has been the old stats. We could just throw them in the trash can. Well,
he'll be able to make up for that lower DPM game now that he has Victor in his pocket yet again. Maybe he can boost it even higher. That would be pretty interesting to see what kind of damage figure he's going to hit. Of course, just to let you guys know, we do have a pause. That's what we're waiting on to get that technical difficulty taken care of before we get into the game.
Yeah, exciting times with pauses. So
piggyback broadcast.
We don't know what's going on. We just have our nice spectator sitting there in a pause, just like us, sitting in this tiny, tiny studio all alone.
It's so bizarre.
Hermetically sealed, cut off from the world.
I haven't cast in a room like this since I was casting amateur tournaments in my bedroom.
Yep.
That's about the last time that I had this kind of experience. So it's a bit of a change from a big open studio.
Even when I was casting at MLG in 2012, there was at least a cameraman in the room.
Yeah, we have. There is no one in here to monitor us. It's just a camera. I feel like the age of the robots is taking over now.
We're just here to entertain you from all over the world.
Yep.
But it's an interesting time to be sure.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it won't take too long to get these technical difficulties taken care of. Hopefully it takes them shorter than it took for me to fix my tie. Sorry, guys. I got all of your tweets.
I thought you were going for the sort of like fashionably disheveled
Welcome
look.
To the piggyback broadcast.
No, it's just your thing. It's just your thing now. That's how you're going to be as a caster from now on. You just insist it's in your contract that your tie has to be askew. Top button undone.
I just want to look like I showed up 5 minutes before the cast started. They slapped some makeup on me, and I was just like, hey, I'm here. what's going on, guys? No, but thank you all for the insane amount of tweets. There's like 18 tweets of people saying like, "Dude, fix your tie."
I didn't say. Like I said, I thought it was a fashion choice.
I mean,
That's legit.
I should have just rolled with it.
You know who did look great with like the loosened tie was Moonglade. That guy pulled it off super well. So some people can get away with that. Unfortunately, you're like a little bit too clean cut. Like Moonglade had longer hair, like really handsome Australian guy who was a caster here for StarCraft, and he would when he was dressing up rock like the slightly loose, just plain black tie, like plain black skinny tie. It actually looked amazing on him, but it was a different person than you. I don't think you could rock it quite as well.
Some guys could pull it off.
I couldn't
do it.
I couldn't do it. So
I'll stick to making sure that this is right and tight on the neck there. But yeah, I don't know. Piggyback broadcast.
That's right.
What more can you say about it?
That's our reality now.
Yeah. Why? I'm confused by this LeBlanc ban.
I am too. Afreeca, it's not that Mickey hasn't played a lot of LeBlanc, but it could be to go hand in hand with a first pick Victor, but you're not going to assume you're going to get that Victor as a first pick when it's your first ban on blue side, and they banned both Victor and Azir in the last game.
Yeah.
Could have been a bit of a Hail Mary right there, but we'll see how it ends up going. I don't think that ban was particularly impactful. I am interested that Afreeca did seem to play for a very aggressive early game composition again. And a lot of this game, I think, is going to depend on whether they get those standard lanes or not, because they're going to want, with Lucian and Braum, that lane against the Nami Ezreal, super vulnerable early on if you get caught out by that early damage. And after that first back, that's where things start to go very wrong in the Ezreal and Lucian matchup. Once the armor or the armor pen starts coming in,
you got that Dirk in your inventory
versus Tyr. That's just it's a bad time.
It's filthy.
It's a bad time.
Absolutely filthy. I mean, it's bad for both of them. You have Ezreal and Nami. Like, sure, the sustain is there to a degree, but they're both so squishy.
Yeah, and you're going to get pushed in, and that's where you get really worried about Lulu and Poppy teleporting on top of you and just ruining your day. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
You know what's not going to be interesting? The Warcraft movie.
Here we go. You've been just bad-mouthing this thing. I haven't even seen it, man. You're just judging off of those trailers. No,
the trailers are so bad.
They're so terrible. But that's the difference between...
And the reviews are also already super bad. And you know what?
I haven't looked at it recently.
I wanted to have hope, Achilles. I wanted to hope, because Duncan Jones, I love Moon.
Moon and source code was interesting.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a... at the end of the film, like... they literally create an alternate reality. It's really weird.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Like, it's so, but it's the manner in which it happens. I walked out of that movie feeling uncomfortable, but I enjoyed it.
That's great.
So it was pretty bizarre. But yeah, no, Duncan Jones typically is pretty solid, but for whatever reason, Warcraft doesn't hold up that well as a film, it seems.
That's right. I don't have to see it. See, my policy on movies, Achilles, is that I just don't want them to ruin things that I like. So, I don't care about.
Well, I was
going
to say you care about Warcraft.
Don't care about.
I used to cast Warcraft.
I was a
3,
Warcraft 3 caster. That was my first game, and I did it for many years. But I just like the gameplay, right? I don't really care if it has a fantasy setting. I don't care about the lore. Just like with League of Legends, I like it because it's a great esport, right? I enjoy watching the highest level of play, the strategies that go into it, the outplays. That's what's fun. I don't really care if it was a bunch of, different colored boxes doing it. It doesn't make it more or less exciting for me.
Well, let's be fair, though. Drawing a contrast between WoW lore, or Warcraft lore, rather, and League of Legends lore, there's a bit of a discrepancy there as far as quality and depth goes.
I would agree until WoW came out, okay? Because the Warcraft lore, Warcraft 3 single-player campaign was okay. I will give it okay. It wasn't like StarCraft Brood War was actually the single-player campaign I thought was well-written and interesting. StarCraft 2, not so much. But with Warcraft 3, see, the thing about that lore instead of WoW is that they invented a lot more villains and Illidan. You know what WoW did? It's one of the many reasons I really dislike
Let's
WoW.
kill them all!
It's like, they just kill them all. But you know what? They don't even introduce new villains. They just take all of the old villains, and then when they ran out of ideas in WoW, and they didn't have new villains because they never made any, they said, you know what we're going to do? You get to time travel and then kill all the villains that you killed in Warcraft 3. I'm like, is this just a creatively bankrupt project? Could you not come up with one storyline that introduces some new villains into this game that are actually compelling?
Yeah. Bankrupt product is definitely not what they have. They make an absurd amount of money still.
Creatively bankrupt
Yeah.
from a writing department. So that's why I'm not too excited. It's one of the many reasons. It's the extended version of why I'm not excited about the Warcraft movie.
I mean, I'm on the same page as Doa. I fully plan on going and seeing the movie when it comes out. There's a few things that have come out where it's like, I don't even want to give my money to this. But this is one of those ones where I'm like, all right, screw it. I'll go see it. I'm not going to expect anything whatsoever, but hopefully I'll walk out and be like, you know what? It was terrible, but I enjoyed it. I don't necessarily expect to have that reaction, but it's entirely possible.
God bless you.
I'm just gonna. I mean, that's my high hopes. That's the problem. Is I'm not going in thinking like I hope this is the best blockbuster film I've ever seen in the last 3 years. I don't expect that whatsoever. I'm just like I just hope that I don't hate it. That's my bar that is being set. Because some of those scenes,
you're gonna hate it.
Some of those scenes, some of the CG actually looks pretty good.
We'll see.
But
actually, I won't see because I'm not going to watch it.
All right,
so
well,
I don't
fine.
care.
I'm sure that Doa and I will talk your ear off about it.
Enjoy.
Yeah, just like how you have, in theory, seen Doa's Overwatch montage video. All right, guys, looks like the break's over. We're gonna get into game 2. Alrighty, hooray! We are on to the Rift and into the game. You can see that the Ocean Drake is going to be the first one gracing us with its presence here on Summoner's Rift as we take a little photo tour.
Yeah, we are going to see what look like standard lanes right off the bat. Pings going down on both of them. Everybody seeing each other here on the bottom side. Wraith and Ruler poking forward into that brush. Could be slightly dangerous, but they do get some damage down. Their ranged attacks onto Snowflower, who will go ahead and recall. They also snap up that ward placed over by Songyun and go for a little bit of an early invade here. Not going to stop the recall. So are they going to go back for the Krugs? We're going to see Krugs and Gromp start here.
Well, looks like they might be able to. I mean, of course, they can recover a bit of that HP from the Nami. They're at least resting in that brush, so it looks like they might be going for it. Meanwhile, the Gromp will go over to Snowflower. No Bard in this game, so you can actually feel safe taking the Gromp.
That was so dirty from the Freecs last time.
Like I said, Kramer and Mad Life have to...
So sad.
They have to be so terrified of that brush now every time they go near it. Like, is there a Bard in there?
Nobody expects the level 1 magical journey. Well, they did see Afreeca that there were no wards from Samsung into their side of the jungle, but they pop Snowflowers over the side of the wall just to make extra sure that there's not going to be a delayed invade. Both teams will just go ahead and take Krugs and Gromp and head into that laning phase. A bit of harassment. Oh my, there's a stun.
Yeah, that's a nice little trade there for Songyun. Only takes an auto attack from the Nami, gets some damage in on the Ruler, but...
yeah, it looks like both AD carries were given solo experience at the Krugs and the Gromp, so they are going to hit level 2 first, and they tried for a little bit of a sneaky attempt there.
Yeah.
And it ended up...
It's like, haha, we did that too.
Doing some work.
Not gonna net them a whole lot. Bot lane probably not gonna become too terribly interesting for a while, because even if Wraith hits somebody with that bubble, what are you gonna do as Ruler? Like, if they're not standing in the middle of a minion wave, I guess you can use the Mystic Shot, but damage is not gonna be there for a considerable amount of time.
Yeah, and Samsung, now that they're in this 2v2, we'll see how they play it out. They could try and swap after the first recall if they really want to avoid that lane. They're also going to want to use their sustain advantage to really just protract the amount of time that occurs before the first recall happens, so that they're in a more even situation in the lane, and arguably even in a superior one pre-first buy, given that they have the 2 ranged champions in the laning phase already, and they have more sustain. So everything looking okay. Crown out of mana. Mickey a little bit hurting when it comes to health. Has burned through both of his potions already.
Yep, shoves Crown straight up into the tower, but not even going to be able to deny him any CS, really. They're going to stay dead even. Of course, worth noting, we have double teleports on both sides instead of a one-sided double TP like we saw in the first game. So if any action breaks out around the map, both of these mid laners will be able to respond. Of course, Mickey able to offer more upfront help with that wild growth.
Yeah.
He had 6, so, you know, Crown really depended on landing those skill shots, getting the gravity field in a good spot, so it's going to be much better reaction from Mickey on paper.
Yeah, also, as long as Mickey plays his teleport around Lyra's location on the map and they have the Lamb's Respite up, the damage from Crown is going to be much less of a factor if he does TP in at the same time or slightly delayed to wherever Mickey's coming in. The crowd control from the Lulu is going to have a bigger impact on some of these early skirmishes.
Well, Snowflower just going to go aggressive on the Wraith. We won't be able to get that stun, though, and Songyun not quite in range to get the double tap, so it's going to be a pretty safe Nami. But one of the things that, you know, you mentioning the Lamb's Respite, one of the things that we could see, though, is Crown using the gravity field on top of it as a zoning tool to push people off. So it's either, okay, stay in it and get a slight heal, and get locked up, or you can just get off of it and try your luck.
Yeah, absolutely. And Victor is one of those champions that does create interesting counterplay to the Kindred ultimate. Vision coming up here. Ixu is on the march. He's walking very far forward.
Yes, he is. He's going to get hit by that cocoon as well as the twisted advance. Flashes in, gets the stun onto Ambition, and here comes Lyra, arriving just in time to keep the Poppy alive. He'll take a little bit more damage from that Arcane Smash. You can see that Ambition's trying to trade back and whittle down. Oh, that's going to be the flash for the cocoon as well. Lyra is going to fall for first blood as Kube picks it up, and it's going to be 2 kills in the end. Ambition netting one as well. Very aggressive play from Samsung, and it pays off.
Wow. So Afreeca right there, they did have the advantage when they came in, and Lyra, even though he was late, you could see that Samsung was going to back off right there because Kindred's damage is quite scary in the early game.
Yeah.
Ambition didn't want to tangle with that, especially when the cooldowns were down. But then Afreeca just walks forward. They start to stick around under the turret, basically, and then they just have to wait for the cocoon and the twisted advance to be back up to come off cooldown. They can re-engage without crowd control, and because we already saw the Poppy so heavily chunked out, 2 easy kills in the early game from Samsung.
Yep. And look at that, the Chaos Storm still sticking to Mickey despite using the Whimsy on himself, just whittling him down. So Crown just going to try to chunk him out before he goes in for the recall. Hasn't used his TP yet. Mickey, of course, had a pretty early back as he got the double Doran's ring. So Crown's going to be able to go back and likely augment his item, and there we go. He's just going to go for that and some boots as well.
Yeah.
So pretty good start here for the Victor.
Yeah, Songyun actually not really abusing this matchup at all. In fact,
he went for the call.
Went back for a call. It was an earlier recall, but he's not attempting to at least make an immediate impact on this bottom side of the map. Instead, what he wants to do is just jumpstart his build in the mid game with a little extra gold. But that is going to give Ruler some very comfortable time to stack up his tier and go even in terms of CS. So Afreeca's going to try and hit a very particular power spike in the mid game at this point, and they're already behind as a result of the botched 2v2 in the top side.
Yeah, that's just going to let Kube be that much tankier. We see he already has the Bomby Cinder, so going to be going for that Sunfire Cape first item. Ixu just coming back in with a Spectre Scale, trying to mitigate as much damage as he can from this Maokai.
At least he has a CS lead to offset some of the gold from the kill and the assist, but that isn't too much worthwhile at this stage. They are only 400 gold down, but again, the problem is this is the second game in a row now where Afreeca had to be the one winning these fights early. They had to be the ones making the plays, or else they were in very real danger of losing late game team fights or late game split pushes, and nothing has changed on that front. Afreeca is not really going to do a lot of damage in a split push with a Lulu, especially when you have the wave clear coming in from a Victor to counter it, who also has that TP. So that's going to be, if we talk about 1-3-1 split pushing, it's going to be pretty neutral for both of these teams. Nobody has a very good advantage in that scenario.
Yeah.
But the team fight much stronger for Samsung. Late.
We see Songyun trying to get aggressive onto Wraith in the bot side. Uses the calling to go ahead and clear out that wave. That's going to be his recall. Meanwhile, up on this top side, Ixu gets found by that cocoon. Definitely done a little bit of damage onto the Poppy, but Mickey is coming around the backside. Double knock up there with the Keeper's Verdict. Crown arriving now, throws down the gravity field. It's going to force a flash on Mickey. Ambition nowhere to go. Goes over by the blue buff, and he is going to go down. That's a kill picked up for Lyra. This blue buff is going to be taken away as well.
And nice roam there, too, from Snowflower, coming up all the way across the map while they had the wave pushed up and had an opportunity to recall right there. But a good collapse. Mickey was able to get into the enemy jungle faster, and now they're starting to make some of those plays that they so desperately need if they want to actually play a hard, fast mid-game here and snowball some kind of advantage.
That's a nice start indeed, and Lyra with a kill on that Kindred is going to be pretty deadly as he gets a couple more items in here. Looking for the completion on that Blood Razor for the time being, so still a little bit off of that, but in addition to that kill, now comes out with a bit of a CS lead in the jungle, so he's going to be in a really comfortable spot.
He definitely will be.
And this is a BF sword pickup for Songyu. So not just going to go for like something like the Serrated Dirk into the Caulfields for the Youmuu's Ghostblade.
Now this is definitely a different style of build than we've seen on most of the Lucians this season. This will actually make Afreeca more deadly in the late game because you're not committing so hard to armor penetration as a stat, and the fact that you have to live long enough to stack up the Black Cleaver. If he goes for what we saw a lot of last season, which was the Essence Reaver build, then he is going to have a lot of late game damage, and that actually changes the nature of Afreeca's composition by a significant amount, because now they're looking more like how SK Telecom used to run with the Lulu mid and the Lucian, where this isn't so much of an early game focused team, but it will require Songyun and Mickey to coordinate well in order to carry late game team fights. And given Mickey's previous performance at Lulu, I wouldn't have the same level of confidence as what Faker does on SK Telecom with a similar philosophy, but we'll see if he can pull it off.
Speaking of Mickey, he's going to get a lot of damage pushed down onto him as that Chaos Storm just continuously deals damage over time. Lyra, though, feeling comfortable, going to go for this Drake. Ward comes down from Wraith as they do spot it. It's going to force the TP out here from the top side as Kube's collapsing down. Trying to push off the Dragon, but might be too late. Gratitude's going to slow them up. Double bubble comes through from Wraith. The exhaust onto Lyra as well. He gets the heal from the Lamb's Respite, but a big flash forward over the wall from Kube with a Twisted Advance might just finish off the Kindred. One more auto attack. He's going to get it. The Sap Magic heal comes through onto the Maokai, but he's still going to fall. And now Ruler has to head for the hills, flashes away. The bubble connects onto Ixu. Meanwhile, Ambition finishes off the Drake. Overall, it's going to be a 2-for-1 plus Dragon over to Samsung.
Yeah, and Cube did not expect to go over the wall right there, because what we saw was that the Kindred used his flash and then dashed over the wall to pull him with him on the Twisted Advance. Mickey reacted well by TPing in the lane to help actually finish off one kill and get something out of that. But so greedy. Mickey was already chunked out. Crown had already used his abilities. You just can't even take that extra auto attack that we saw Lyra take right there on that Dragon. Wraith, another great Nami play from him. Does end up with the flash forward and the double bubble. Kube gets it a little bit over his head right here. There's just not much he could do. Didn't expect to follow Lyra over the wall. Was trying to get him before he could actually dash over. Everyone else just escapes. And Ambition takes the already leashed Dragon and makes it work.
Boy. Yeah, Crown, though, trying to zip his way out of here as fast as he can. Ixu tanking up the tower. And that's going to be Crown getting out with his life. Has to use the flash, but still living. So.
Yeah, Ixu also, a little bit of a surprise gank right there. Did come in and use his ultimate, it would appear. Try and set that one up. We didn't catch the beginning of that play. Crown caught a little bit by surprise, but he's going to be going to be just perfectly comfortable using his TP to get right back into lane. He knows Mickey doesn't have his either. Yeah.
See, though, Crown going for the Lich Bane here in addition to the augments, as he does have the Sheen in his inventory.
Well, you know, the Q changes to make that Lich Bane pretty attractive. Also, he is going to be more of a split-pushing threat than with the Lich Bane. Able to push down those turrets faster since he has opted to go for the teleport. That Q is going to be hitting very hard, especially because he already did get that boost of damage, which was, I believe, nerfed a little bit on this patch, actually. But even so, we're talking about hitting that auto attack, the empowered auto after the Q. You can do some nice work with a Sheen or a Lich Bane there.
Yeah, Mickey, though, going for that Rod of Ages build because he does just now complete it. So 13 minutes on that build, so not going to be fully stacked up until the 23-minute mark. So not going for, you know, these builds on the Lulu that we've seen from him and, you know, people like Faker in the past where before Frost Queen's claim was very prominent on Lulu and then into a Lich Bane, so still just going to be looking for a more defensive option with this Rod of Ages.
Well, he also needs to make sure he can survive the Victor burst. Victor strong right now, and the goal has to be to cast the Wild Growth on either Songyun or Lyra here, so if he has to use it to save himself because he doesn't have enough HP, there's going to be a big problem in these team fights.
Well, we've seen that problem from him in the past, so looking to correct the mistakes with this item purchase, it seems. Crown, though, knowing that they're in that brush, the pink ward's spotting them going in, so just going to harass him and say, get out of my bush.
He just had an evil laugh instead, actually. He likes doing that. He likes it when they're in the bush, taking free damage.
Hiding on bush.
They are hiding on bush, but not very well.
They don't hide on bush as well as hide on bush does.
Not that time, at least.
It's very hard to hide on bush as well as he does. Snowflower, though, bad spot yet again. It's going to be the Flash Cocoon, and he just gets melted. Ruler finishing him off with a Mystic Shot, and that's just another kill very easily picked up here for Samsung. Really aggressive invade all by himself there on the Braum, and he pays for it.
I think what I'm enjoying most about watching Samsung this season, Achilles, is their decisiveness. I mean, Ambition didn't hesitate to flash right there. Crown was easily already there, and Ruler was on his way too with that E. They had the vision. You look at the pink wards there in their own jungle.
Oh, Wraith maybe replicating the mistakes that Snowflower just made, but no, Ambition is here to back him up this time. Lamps of Spike comes down, and Lyra trying to get out of here. Will dash over the wall, but it doesn't matter because Ruler goes in on the offensive, jumps in with the Arcane Shift, and finishes him off with the W. Nicely played by Samsung, as you were just making your point. Very decisive and very cohesive play coming out from these guys.
Yeah, and they seem to know exactly what they can do. Ambition and Wraith working together as a unit right there. Wraith not mirroring the mistake of Snowflower. He wasn't in that jungle alone, and the wave was in the right place. That's what a good warding mission will do for you. You can just simply get into the enemy jungle faster if you have that wave pushed up. If your jungler's already there, you're going to be safe. And Afreeca makes an overly aggressive play in a dangerous situation for them, pretty close to immediately after they lost their own support.
Yeah.
But Ruler, he's been really well coordinated with the rest of his teammates on both of those plays in particular. There to provide the enough damage and at exactly the right time. And all of a sudden now he's 2-0-2 in this game, and he is going to be scaling very quickly as this Ezreal. And I don't think there's a lot of hope right now for the Afreeca Freecs. They're in exactly the same boat they were in game number 1. They were trying to play for a more aggressive style of pick composition for the mid game and the early game, and instead they end up losing the skirmishes, and now Samsung has a great deal of comfort when it comes to scaling.
Yeah. Still not that much gold separating them, so it's not like Samsung's really running away with the bank, but still comfortably ahead. No towers falling quite just yet. Those global objectives could certainly affect the shift in the gold difference. But still 6-2 plus that first dragon. Samsung are looking really strong at the moment. And I can't see what Drake is spawning next because there's that little wall there.
It's okay. It'll be a surprise.
Surprise Drake.
It'll be a surprise Drake.
Nope, never mind.
Oh, I wanted the surprise.
It's the Infernal Drake.
Why does Riot always have to ruin the surprise, Achilles?
The camera just had to snap over to it. Snowflower wasn't even doing anything interesting. But they heard us... They heard that we wanted a surprise, and they took it away.
Always, observers always ruining caster fun. I wish there was a surprise Drake. No, it says Infernal, but once every 1,000 Drakes, there's just the surprise Drake.
Instead of like the Elder Drake spawning, another Rift Herald pops out, and you're like, wait, what the hell? What are you doing here?
That's right. I'm advocating for more RNG now. That's how mad I am at RNG. All right. Well, wave push forward. Ambition and Wraith already there. And Crown with the pressure in the mid lane. So Afreeca just going to have to let this one go. Second of the game. Drake goes to Samsung.
Well, this could be bad for Ruler, though. Throw out the Scrying Orb. He's all by himself. There's Lyra Snowflower down there. Meanwhile, Mickey in the mid lane. Look at this chain CC. He just didn't stand a chance. And Snowflower's going to miss everything on Ruler. And now he's going to layer in the damage. Snowflower's just going to die all on his own. Kube arrives, locks down Ixu with the Twisted Advance, who came in. Not sure why he wanted to do that. Now he has to flash away to safety. Kube gets the damage with the Ventral Maelstrom, and This is just going to be questionable play overall from Afreeca Freecs, who are faltering on all fronts.
Yeah, and to Samsung's credit, Cuvée played that entire sequence beautifully on the Maokai. First off, he committed his flash to actually catch Mickey out in that choke point and made sure that there was going to be enough follow-up damage from his team there to finish off the kill. Then, without even missing a beat, we see Ruler calling in that bottom lane for some support because obviously he's going to be afraid of the dive while 3 members of his team are on the top side of the map. And Cuvée just immediately teleports under the turret to help him out. Didn't even need it because Snowflower misplayed that engagement.
And now Lyra getting caught out in his own jungle, but here comes Snowflower jumping over the wall, can try to get those concussive blows, but they can't do it. Meanwhile, Mickey just trying to run in, but he gets caught out by Crown and Cuvée. They lock him up with the gravitational field, and he's going to go down. Songyun trying to answer with some kills. Ambition just goes up into the air with the repel to keep himself alive. Ixu goes in, but he misses the Q, and it's not going to kill him off. Cuvée, he's just like, all right, let's just kill the Poppy guys. Front line. And they do so, and that's going to be another.
Oh man, are they going to get another one right here?
Yeah, they might. No, they're not going to happen. It goes pretty wide, but they are going to deny a bunch of minions in that bottom side and get some damage in on the tier 2. Samsung just making all the right calls.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ambition was safe enough right there. You could see that they didn't have to use TPs, yet Cuvée and Crown were in the right place yet again. Crown able just to block up this choke with the Death Ray right there, make it very unattractive for Songyun to come back in. Ixu tries to finish off the kill into Ambition, but it's just not quite enough. Ambition sticks around, gets that last little bit of crowd control off in the form of the Cocoon, and everybody just isolates him in that 4 versus 1. Afreeca looking very disjointed in this game, but to Samsung's credit, they have been playing this game extremely well.
Yeah. Remember when I said that there wasn't much gold separating these guys? There's now about 6,000 or 5,000 here on the board.
Well, they got a couple towers off some of these pushes.
Yeah. But they also have that Turtle Drake stacking up, and they have this gold advantage, which is just going to give them so many more stats than Afreeca could possibly have available to them.
It's pretty much over. And let's see if
I can't say that anymore after that KTM game.
That's true.
I will never pass judgment on a match again.
Oh, I will. Constantly, every time, Achilles. Because that's what builds the tension to a really great comeback, right?
Yeah.
If you always leave, this is how I feel as a caster.
Well, maybe they're going to do it.
If you always leave the door open to the comeback, then it doesn't stress how unlikely some of these comebacks are.
Yeah. You see, though, Snowflower going to throw out the ultimate. It's not going to connect to anybody. Ruler finishes him off with the True Shot Barrage. Doesn't matter if the Unbreakable's there. It's still going to go down, but as is Ambition on that other side. Keeper's Verdict going in on a Ruler who looks like he's just going to try to stick around because Crown's coming around the sidelines, but actually Samsung making all the wrong calls right here, going 3 members down, only taking up Snowflower. And yeah, Afreeca looking like they want to go for this one. Wraith is the
no TP
person nearby. Cuvée cannot possibly teleport here. Be a miraculous steal with the Nami, but I think they just have to let this one go.
He doesn't even have Tidal Wave. There's no way he can get there. But
yeah,
there's
not zoning him. Wow.
Wow. So 21 minutes. See, this is what makes these comebacks amazing, Achilles. Almost evened up that gold again. And to talk about that, Samsung hugely misplayed that situation.
Yes.
They didn't actually have enough people there. Crown was late and then committed far too late to that engagement and did get flanked there by the Kindred and just sort of ganged up on 1 versus 4. Ambition was left in the top side, and then they managed to intercept. So let's take a look at how this played out. Wraith and Ruler and Ambition, there's no need to make this play. The point should be just to take this turret. Wraith's going to tank way too many turret shots, and then they juggle the aggro super awkwardly, have to use the repel to get out of that, but Songyu's just free autoing that entire time. Meanwhile, Ixu is going to come in, doesn't even have to use the TP, and Ruler makes a questionable decision to try and get back to Crown right there. Doesn't end up working out. Songyun wraps around with the wild growth onto Ixu, and they clean it up. And so now they're in a situation where the gold lead is bouncing right back over to Afreeca, and they've narrowed it to about 2,000. But there was just literally no reason for Samsung to make that play.
Well, not only that, I'm just so surprised that Mickey finished the channel. He teleported on the turret that had about 70 HP, and no one just autoed it to get rid of his TP play. They could have completely taken him out of that fight for a period of time, but they just let the teleport go through instead of destroying the turret.
It was a very split call, right? They panicked. There isn't going to be an inhibitor taken right now with Victor coming back. Cuvée is by himself.
And he's gonna die. They're teleporting in
They
as
should
well.
not TB right
That's pretty aggressive. I mean, they get the knock up here on the Glacial Fissure as well. Ixu just using the Keeper's Verdict to zone them out. Make sure that they can't save him, but
that was a really big commitment to kill that Maokai at this point in time because it's still too early in the game to actually try and press a siege on this inhibitor.
Yeah.
Especially when you have 3 of your key ultimates down.
There's a double teleport advantage now over to Samsung.
Yeah.
That was really questionable.
So Samsung is going to be able to make a counterplay here. Everything is just about even in terms of gold. But again, this isn't the end of the road for Samsung. Even gold, 25 minutes into this game, is perfectly fine for them.
See, Ocean Drake spawning. It's the second one of the game. The True Shot Barrage is coming out a bit too late to try to go for that seal. And another Infernal Drake is going to come up, so we're just going to double down on Dragons.
I love the Dragon double down. And actually, Samsung's still going to maintain a turret lead. They tried to actually just trade turrets evenly, considering that Ruler and Wraith went to the top side and took out a tier 2 during the fracas of that Baron buff. And 3 of the turrets are down on that bottom side of the map, but it's going to be way too early. And Afreeca just, they don't really have much to split push with right now. Who is going to actually pressure a naked inhibitor in this game when Cuvée and Crown also have teleport and are going to be perfectly able to hold that side of the map by themselves? Cuvée also with the Frozen Heart now, which is going to be immensely helpful against Afreeca. That's probably the most crucial item defensively that Samsung needed, because all of their late game damage is coming out through auto attacks from Kindred and Lucian.
Yeah. Reducing the amount of damage coming out from both of them is going to be pretty damn good, but looks like they might be losing this blue buff unless they want to have a big scuffle over it. Gravity Field catches Snowflower and sucks him back into the center. He flashes away. He'll use that W to stand behind me, but he's still going to fall. All the same True Shot Barrage finishing him off. Looks like we're just going to have a full-blown fight break out here as Cuvée comes TPing in, trying to get onto Mickey. Gravity Field down. They lock him up, and he falls. It's going to be 2 kills now picked up for Ruler. So Afreeca Freecs, they make some good plays, and then they make some pretty terrible ones.
Oh, same thing with Samsung in this game, right? That was a good collapse that Samsung noticed, that they have such a huge advantage at this point in the game, even though the gold is even due to their composition. Not afraid to take that fight, and they clear out the mid-wave. Notice what they did. They cleared out the mid-wave with Maokai, sent 4 people in the bottom. They're going to take a tier 2. And are they going to be able to push harder off this 1 kill? They'd like to, but
it's 20 seconds.
Ixu knows that Maokai's alone, so he actually does get a little bit of delay on that minion wave just by pushing it out a little bit.
Well, they throw off the culling. Ixu comes in the backside, does knock away Ambition. Cocoon does catch him up, and he gets locked down by the Twisted Advance, but it looks like that will be enough to delay Samsung from finishing off of this tower. And it's just a couple hits away, too, here from Ruler if you can get onto it.
They should not get too greedy for this again.
Yeah.
This is what got them into the situation in the first place. They have so much room to be patient.
Well, they know that the Keeper's Verdict is down, as is the culling, so that does give them a little bit of leeway. Crown almost has the Chaos Storm back up. See Ruler, one more hit. He's going to be able to get it. I think they just not going to actually look to disengage. So they're just going to go straight onto Ixu, who could not make it onto the lamp. So despite Snowflower getting sucked in by the Gravity Field, he's going to fall as well. Healed not enough to keep him alive. It's going to be a double kill going over to Crown. A triple as he finishes off Lyra. Songyun, the only member standing. A wave coming in. Do they just go for the finish right here? They got 40 seconds on the death timers.
Yeah, and I think that's it, Achilleos. Talk about this game, but Samsung has been so decisive, even when they made the wrong call, even when they gave up that Baron. They just continue to power on through. They waited for the minion wave, didn't overcommit to that turret, and now that's just going to be it.
That is indeed something. Was just saying, like, please, guys, just go away. Dodges out the bubble, but still falls in the end, and that's a 27.5-minute game from Samsung, 18-6 in kills, and they completely stomp out the Freaks.
Well, when we take a look at that game, all of the gold was going on to Victor and Ezreal, which very rapidly accelerated.